I'm Jason Klamm, and this is the Comedy on Vinyl podcast. The year is 2009, the album, Death of the Party, the artist, Kyle Kinane, and my guest is Jesse David Fox. Thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you for having me.
I promise I won't be wearing these headphones the whole time.
No,
it's awkward when only one of them's wearing them. We just here, guys. Here's a real quick donate to the show, and I can have headphones for my guests. So there we go. So you picked. I'm glad that you picked something newer. It's harder to get the newer albums on vinyl sometimes.
Yeah.
I lucked out today. I will point out that the very kind Dan Schlissel of Stand Up Records sent me a ton of records, including this one, knowing, by the way, that we were going to do this episode.
Yeah.
So he's like, let me rush it out to you so that you have it on vinyl. So it's very cool. So I got to listen to it. The vinyl itself is gorgeous. Did you actually see the record?
I've not. I'm going to look at it.
It's beautiful. So this came out 2009. I think the vinyl came out in 2012, if I'm not mistaken. It says that on the back anyway. So when did you first hear it? I think you told me you were at the party, right?
Yeah, so I whoa.
Isn't that awesome?
So cool.
I've never seen anything like that.
I don't know. It's almost like cooler than Kyle would justify. No offense, it looks like a spin art.
Yeah, it does. It does.
But that's crazy.
It's half white
and half like clear, but all in a spin art fashion.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So I went to the release party for it. It was it wasn't like I did that on purpose. I had not heard of Kyle Kinane before the release party of this. Which, to be fair, he had not released anything. I don't think he even had TV credits at that point. So I was just going to Comedy Death Ray.
Okay.
Which before it became Comedy Bang Bang, and we're talking about the live show, not the radio, not the podcast.
Right.
And that was my second Comedy Death Ray. To back up, I've lived in LA at that point only like, let's say 3 or 4 months.
Okay.
To work in the music business. And I made a friend who was like, "Oh, you should come see comedy with me because I'm trying to work in the comedy business and there's lots of good comedy right now."
Uh-huh.
And he took me to Comedy Death Ray, and it was the Halloween show. And I was like, "This is amazing.
Yeah,
comedy is very good."
Uh-huh.
I remember John Daly and Brett Gilman were hosting In Character as the characters they do on the Comedy Death Ray, Comedy Bang Bang podcast. And Hannibal Buress was the first comedian, and I'd never seen Hannibal before.
Man.
And he told one joke, and it was like a light switch where I'm like, oh, I guess I'm just going to see comedy like every week for the next, like, now 7 years.
Holy shit.
And then Kyle was either next week or 2 weeks after, and he was hosting Comedy Death Ray as a release party.
Okay.
And he was so funny that I bought the record at the release party, which I almost never buy. It's CDs at the time. I almost never buy CDs, but I was moved to LA, so I had a CD player to fill. And he did a bit that of the times I've seen Kyle Kinane, which is probably more than most comedians. He can make me like almost like it's always crying, laughing at a point, or like. Couple times he's made me almost throw up from laughing. But he had an old bit that he stopped doing eventually, which was he had a pizza menu. And he just walked through the menu. It was, and I have since talked to him about it, and he goes, "Yeah, it's just like if I had to fill time, I'd just be like, I got 8 minutes. Let's see how I can make it 8 minutes. I got 15 minutes." So the premise of the pizza menu was that there's larger and larger sizes of a menu, and that was it. He was just imagining why someone would order a bigger size of a pizza. And I was like, this is so funny. I'm going to buy this guy's record. I hope it's good. And it was so good.
Yeah.
I was just like, I tried to tell everyone almost immediately that I was like, there's this guy and he's doing comedy. And I was trying to find YouTube clips with his early YouTube, so it's like bad quality. And again, he didn't have TV credits at that point. And it was like, there's 3 records that year, I think, that I became obsessed with and I would just listen to over and over again. Partly because I had a car, and partly I was this weird time where I would listen to the same album, the comedy albums.
Okay, sure.
Which I feel like since I never do.
This is definitely re-listenable too, though. I realized after listening to it, I'm like, shit, I've heard this. Why don't I own this yet?
Yeah.
Until today, why don't I actually own it? Because I really do love it.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, it really is. I mean, like, as Kyle put it, I spoke to Kyle recently for my podcast, and he's like, yeah, just like everything I had for 10 years. I wasn't planning on putting out a record.
Yeah.
A special thing was like, do you want to put out a record? And he's like, well, I guess I will.
Oh, my God.
He's like, I've never done an hour, really, so I guess
Right.
so I'll just put everything next to each other. And there's something about the perspective that he found in that record is, to me, a perfect comedic perspective and a unique comedic perspective. And the detail in which he writes the jokes is, like, really, I think, unparalleled in this time.
Yeah.
And that is what makes him that's probably what makes it so listenable.
Sure.
Where you're just like, the word choices that he uses for no reason.
Yeah, there's one bit that I really wish if I didn't have brain because of my cold. There's one bit he does where there's just this layer upon layer of adjectives that I can't remember. Oh, damn it. This is so not helpful for anybody. But you should listen to this album, but there is a bit where he uses like 3 or 4 adjectives to describe this one thing, and it's just so perfect.
Yeah, I mean, I remember there's so many, but there's the bit where he's talking about how people always are like, oh, it must suck that you can't get Chicago-style pizza here. And then he's describing what it's like, and he's like, it's something like, oh, Kyle, don't you hate that you can't get like a real Chicago-style hot dog? Like, what they think is a Chicago-style hot dog is actually like a used Buick with like Emily Dickinson books in the trunk. It's like, not only does it not have relish, but it's a bunch of books or something like that.
Yeah.
Or like, yeah, and there's stuff like, will be like, I don't remember the exact words, but he'd be like, he compares having a art school degree to if instead of a parachute you had like a bag full of pasta that someone just like slapped in there like lazily and hopelessly or something like that. And that, like, those are the words that like that make it so such an interesting thing to listen to. And I just like could not get over how funny it was.
Yeah.
And how it was dark, but also like very silly and very smart in its own way, but stupid in its own way. But the big thing is that it's like so hopeful in the face of despair.
Absolutely, yeah.
And that is the thing that and that's the thing that is Kyle. Like, I think Kyle pioneered a certain tone in that way, and is incredible at that. Like, sort of like what the previous generation of comedians might have been more cynical about.
Yes.
Which is like, everything sucks.
Yeah.
He takes that same things that are the everything sucks perspective and is like, maybe it's not so bad.
Right.
It's like, maybe there's this glimmer in it. And that's still the thing that he's so good at. Even, like, he's so prolific, partly because he has that one perspective, and he can just live his life and constantly being like, well, what has this year been like?
Yeah. I mean, telling this entire story about having to go to the bathroom without once as himself. I don't even think he says that he has to take a shit. He waits till he use the word shit. It's very delicate. He warns you this is not a graphic story, and it's not. It's just, that is like just a well-told story.
Yeah,
you know.
And it was at he at that point he's been doing comedy for 10 years, and he started as like a guy trying to write jokes. You know, he's of the age in which a lot of those people are, where they're all trying to be Mitch Hedberg. Because you're like, how do you write jokes? Oh, there's a certain formula that Mitch Hedberg has. And the album starts with, like, if you listen to it, like, the first joke, he's, like, doing a Mitch Hedberg impression.
Yeah, kind of is, yeah.
It's like, they say, Kyle, it's like that same cadence that you can't, like, you're a hero if you get a cat from a pet shelter, but if I try to find a girlfriend from a woman's shelter or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's that same cadence, and it's
A lot of comedians
that are around I think like 40-year-old guys, you'll like listen to their first stuff, and it's like Mike Birbiglia straight up does a Mitch Hedberg impression for his first 2 albums. Because it's impossible not to, and it's like, I think Hannibal's first record has like, it's like that same type of thing. But then he started later. He kind of figured out how to not even just tell stories, but like fill out space. As he put it. I mean, now, I don't know if you heard his most recent special, but he does like 30 minutes about gout.
Yes.
It's basically like a one-man show. Like, just, he has a regular stand-up, and then for the last 30 minutes, he does a one-man show about having gout. And I think that's now like, and it's why he's been able to, he's done 3 specials since 2012. He did 2 in the last 2 years. And yeah, that the having to go to the bathroom story is like a perfect one of that perspective. Which he said, I actually interviewed him yesterday, and there's the joke, which is the waking up joke, which is like, you ever wake up in the morning and you have like the misguided belief in believing in yourself or something like that.
Yeah.
And then like you look at the clock and it says boo. It's like 8 o'clock and it says boo. And he said, once I wrote that joke, I was like, oh, every joke is this joke. From the rest of my career, I'm writing this joke.
Wow.
Like, if I start from this point, this is like the voice I was told I was supposed to have. And if you get a good one, there's like a certain amount of like endless ability that like a voice can bring you.
Yeah.
And especially for him, because he's just like, his ability to be both loose and so specifically written is what is so special, I think, about him.
I know my limitations. I know what I can get away with in this world. That's what you have to find out, I know what I can do and what I can't do. I know that I can effectively haggle down the price of a replica Civil War bayonet at a swap meet. I can do that with confidence. Nobody in here is going to be surprised if you see me about to get in a fist fight with the night manager of a Red Lobster over whether or not the moon landing was faked. Just eat your crab legs and be unflappable. It's to be expected. The exciting part about life is finding out what you can't do. Because you don't find out until you try to do something and you're stopped. What I can't do, as I found out with experience, was take off my shirt and look after 2 boys ages 3 and 1 at a family aquatic center in East Lansing, Michigan on a Tuesday afternoon.
What's really fun to listen to about this is, yes, what kind of juxtaposes it, and it's also kind of fun to watch him perform too, is that he also, speaking of Mitch Hedberg, sometimes has a tendency to not even address the audience physically.
Yeah.
He seems to be looking off into the distance and doing his own thing. But in this, word choice is huge.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there's some times where he's either slipped up on a line or made a couple, but they lend so much to the telling of the story that it doesn't matter one lick.
Yeah, I think he there's a certain refinement that would not make sense for him.
Yeah.
Because like, even on the back, the photo that's on the back is him holding a beer. As he tells it, like, eventually, I think he said, like, he wrote that joke and he decided to grow his beard out or something like that. Like, oh no, he said he bombed at the Aspen Comedy Festival or whatever. And he's like, all right, I guess it's over. So then,
oh no.
And then he just like committed to being this guy. But, it's what I think it's actually like reflective of is, the idea that your dreams might not come true is the funny thing that he taps into. And I always, it's a thing that I've always thought about, which is, I think probably everyone, young Gen X and probably through millennial, but I can't speak to young millennials, but I imagine it's the same thing, which is like, we're the generation that was like told you can do whatever you want.
Absolutely.
And you do whatever you dream of doing. And that is like not correct.
Right.
Like sometimes it is.
Sure.
And I always think about, like, and that was the case with me, which was like, I decided, midway through, like, towards my late 20s, like, oh, maybe I can be like a blogger and a journalist. Based on nothing other than, like, I thought I had a lot of opinions about things. And that was kind of, and I liked doing it, right? Yeah. And I got really lucky that I was correct.
Yeah.
Because I was never like a good writer growing up, but I thought my opinions were good enough, and I could articulate them out loud, and I was not embarrassed to be bad at it for a while, and so it worked out. But I know people, especially when I really focused on being like a comedy journalist, there was a time, there was like a crop of people at like the first wave of like contributors to splitsider.com that I was a part of, or maybe it was the second wave, and not all of us like made it.
Yeah.
Because there's not tons of room to be a comedy journalist.
Sure.
And I think, so I was right, but I see how easily I could have been wrong.
Sure. Yeah.
If I was like slightly less funny, and I'm not like super funny, but I can write funny enough that like I was able to be a blogger.
Yeah.
And that kind of carried me through. But if I wasn't, I don't know how, like, I faked my way through a lot of it.
Sure. Yeah, of course.
And I think Kyle probably feels a similar way. It was like, I could be a comedian, that'll pay me off. And he was correct, right?
Right.
He became the voice of Comedy Central, and now that's like a career. But so easily you can see how it went wrong. And I think his comedy taps into that like real feeling that like we were told both that we could like believe in ourselves and our dreams can come true, and that is like a better career option than like being just good at something. Which is like another harsh reality that I think a lot of people are now dealing with. At least I've seen with my friends, where it's like as we get deeper into our 30s, people like finally reach whatever the mountaintop they're at, and they're like, oh no, I don't like this.
Yeah.
And it's like such a specific field that I have no experience for anything else. And there is the career path of doing something that you dream of is like a dangerous one in that regard.
Yeah.
It's funny. I saw Chris Rock recently, and he's just working on stuff right now. So he was bombing for an hour and a half. I tell this story like a million times, but it was amazing to watch. Because I know he doesn't. I've seen Chris Rock bomb essentially on purpose before, but this is the longest. He showed up at the end of a set, at the end of like a show, to like work on stuff, and then an hour and a half passed of him just bombing.
Wow.
And he had one joke that really worked, which is like, he said, like, he's like, oh, my friends tell their kids they can be anything they want. And he's like, no, maybe if you're a white man, but like probably not. So you could be anything you're good at. And you Chris rocked it. And I think that's probably true. And I think like Kyle taps into that tension that I think you don't, that sort of like, you don't see it with a lot of comedians. Wrestling with the idea that being a comedian is like just being like a creative professional.
Yeah.
And not being like, I think like most comedians treat being a stand-up like being a rock star.
Oh, yeah.
And he treats it like being like a graphic designer.
Yeah.
And how it's still hard to like make it as a graphic designer.
Yeah, I love that he uses the word craft. I maybe not even talking about stand-up, but he uses the word craft, and he talks about like comparing what he does to like actual hard labor.
Yeah.
And having done maybe a little bit of hard labor, but sucking at it, and knowing full well he did. But like that's one thing that I really, and maybe that's kind of the current that's there. There are two things, well, number of things, but like this kind of hopeful realism that's in there. He's still of course very hopeful, but he's still very realistic about it. But there's also this whole thing that this is not some magical thing that was given to me by God. Like I had to earn this, and also I hope I'm good enough to keep going. And you're right. I mean, I think that does kind of permeate a lot of comics who've come up since, which is this is less than 10 years ago, but
it's crazy that it is still, though, when I picked it, I was like, it's probably recent. It's weird. And I was like, I guess that's 8 years ago. Like, that's a really long time.
It is, especially given how far he's come.
Yeah, and I was just, and, you know, I used to feel a little bit insecure about how long I've been following certain comedy. You know, I've always been into it, but I think, like, a lot of people, you didn't, like, know it was an option to be a thing to be into, because, like comedy nerd wasn't even, like, a word.
Right.
Until, like, 6 years ago.
Yeah.
So then you're just like, oh, I'll just watch comedy because it's funny, and then that's the thing that I watch. And so then, and like I wasn't like following the alt scene like super closely. Like I like comedians, but I don't think I like registered that like, oh, there's like a thing bubbling up.
Yeah.
The closest was when I was a kid in high school. I would use a fake ID to go to the Comedy Cellar. I grew up in Long Island, but I would use a fake ID to go to the Comedy Cellar. And so I liked that, and that was like around the like Tough Crowd time. So like that was hot, and I liked it because it was comedy. But then I think I got tired of it because it was like, it really was like, it was a club, you know, and people were like there to crush, and they're doing the same jokes over and over again. And I get why you do the same jokes over and over again, because it's good to, it probably feels nice to do well. And that crowd is a lot of tourists or whatever. And the same thing that happens with everyone, probably. Like, a lot of what alternative comedy was a reaction against that. And so when I said, like, when I went to those comedy death rays, I was like, oh, this is not that. Like, this is, like, you can feel this a joke that Hannibal wrote after dinner or whatever. He literally goes, I remember when I saw Hannibal at Comedy Death Ray, it was for Halloween, and he does a joke about Paranormal Activity 1 or 2, whatever it was, where they put a camera on a fan, or on a rotating fan.
Okay.
I haven't seen the movie, and he makes fun of that. And he goes, all right, that's the end of my Halloween material. It's like, sorry, Scott. And I was just like, I didn't know that was allowed. So then it was just really refreshing to, you know, I would go to Comedy Death Ray probably 3 times a month.
Okay.
And then start listening to that podcast, and then like WTF was just starting.
Okay.
And it was just really refreshing to see, like, creating as kind of in that sort of way, like trying to come up with something instead of like, I don't know. I think I've always been interested in the process in that way, and I think this generation, this time period in comedy is like defined by like letting certain fans into the process, and like why I created a podcast was to do that to like the furthest extent yet available.
Yeah.
And I think that's like, I like to see, you know, I do like to see a person, an act evolve, where like if you go to certain clubs, you're seeing like an act as is.
Sure.
And Kyle's always in the process of becoming, like, he like essentially generates material until he's tired of it. Then he hopes there's a special. Essentially, as he told me, he's like I keep on generating material, and then I hope I have a taping booked. Otherwise, I'm just going to not do those jokes anymore.
Oh my God.
He's like, it's never done. It's just whenever the recording is, I record it, and then I move on because I can't do material that I've done for that long.
Wow.
Oh, God. Hey, anybody ever make that mistake, like right when you wake up in the morning and you believe in yourself? I've been having the tendency to do that a lot lately. I go to work every day. I work at 8 a.m. Well, that's my alarm clock goes off at 8 a.m. It's really 7:15, but 12 years ago I thought I would trick myself. My alarm clock goes off at 8 o'clock. I have a big digital alarm clock. I thought it would be louder and more effective. It's a big display. 8 o'clock on a digital alarm clock just looks like the word boo. It's just like Sanyo's trying to give you a preemptive thumbs down to your day before you can even get out the gate.
And he has the ability to still feel like refined when he does that. Where I think the opposite end of it is all of this was happening after Louis' everyone should do a special every year thing, which I think was very bad for comedy. Mm-hmm. And I think for most comedians, I think some people are exceptions, and then it's fine.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of people were recording specials every year and should not have been recording specials every year. And then as a result, it's made it so now there's 1 million specials every year.
Yes, yeah.
There was 90 or something like that, 100 last year.
Oh my god!
And filmed, not recorded.
Yeah. Holy shit!
And now it's probably even more because Netflix is doing, I think, one a week.
Yeah, it's crazy. I feel like it works for something like Edinburgh where you're waiting to get recognized doing your hour every year. After that point, you're doing okay. Maybe you take a break.
Yeah.
But you're right. It's not for everybody.
No, I think it's the idea of doing a new hour every year. It's, Jen Kirkman was saying that's George Carlin phrased it, which is you think of a special as not a special, but just a check-in to what my brain is thinking about this year.
Yeah.
And I think that only works for a certain type of comedian.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you're doing observations or stories, hypothetically, you want to generate new life material and new perspectives. But, if you're a person, it's almost essentially if your comedy is character driven, but the character is who you are as your true, your actual self. Mm-hmm. Then you can maybe get away with it just in so much as it's checking in on a TV show character.
Sure, yeah. That's a good point. I hadn't thought about it that way. But yeah, I mean, as far as it's what do you think could you condense, does he have an idea what his character is, or could you condense it into a sentence?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's essentially I think actually there's two ideas of Kyle as a character, and I think one is the shallow reading of it, which is like hipster Larry the Cable Guy or whatever, which is I think he jokes people call him that, but it's the I'm just drinking beers guy with a beard and but I think the more the character really is these sort of there's balance between hope and misanthropy. Is that how you would say it? Because his record starts with him talking about a review of himself
yes.
in London, which is a very weird way of starting. He does it, the joke that he bails on about the woman shelter.
Uh-huh.
Then he talks about how comedy let him go to London, and they reviewed him as bleak and misanthropic.
Yes, right.
And that is I would say is a fundamental misreading, because I think he is a grump, but a very hopeful grump.
Yeah.
But that he just uses that to set up the joke of you ever get so lonely you sleep on your couch or you feel like you're sleeping next to somebody or something.
So good. Also, I think there's also really good. I like when he will use these diametrically opposed ideas of his personality, where he's he at one point just fully calls out, what does he say? I can be driving down the street with a friend and see a truck showing another truck and just think, that could be a metaphor for power, and how even the great pillars of power need support every once in a while. But I'm just gonna say hey, look at those two trucks trying to fuck.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so good.
And I think the other part,
I slaughtered that joke, by the way.
Yeah,
just
I mean
horrible.
it's that's a metaphor for how our heroes need help sometimes.
Yes,
themselves.
right. There you go.
Look at those two trucks trying to fuck each other.
Mm-hmm.
There is, I think, what maybe is just, I think he gets called a storyteller just because his bits are long.
Mm-hmm.
And he has stories throughout, this record. And then as he kept on doing longer sets, long things.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a bit of that. Because, he has, the taking a shit story, or,
sure.
later he has the sitting next to a woman with a bag full of pancake story. And he has a few airplane stories. But I think if anything, his stories actually are feeding into more of like flights of fancy in certain ways.
Yeah. Okay.
Like the joke he ends up talking about on my podcast is the one where he just like wakes up in the morning and goes through his apartment. And that is mostly just imagining things. It's not really a story, even though like there's a beginning, middle, and end to it. He just like looks at a pile of laundry and thinks this is what you'd think this, right? And then he's like goes to his bathroom and he looks in a mirror and he thinks it's like, am I a Greek god? Where's the chisel? I was looking for the chisel, but instead I found, as always, a garbage can overflowing with Del Taco wrappers. But even that is like a beautifully painted image.
Yeah.
He's very good at these sort of visual that are like essentially metaphors for like whatever this character is. So I can't remember what I was saying, but I do think and again, I haven't listened to George Carlin so long that I don't even know if this is true, but it reminded me of like the word brain dropping.
Yeah.
Which is like, this is what my brain came up with. This, like, I essentially lived a year of my life, and my brain, this stood out in my brain.
Yeah.
And some of it was true stories that happened where I was, I went at some point I went to the bathroom and, there's this, the scumbag idea part of his character wavers, right? I think that part of it, that's part in this record too. There's like the jokes about, I don't look like a guy that can like be with kids alone at a pool.
Right.
He has like two jokes in the similar vein, right? He has, I don't look like a guy that can be alone with two kids at a pool on a Tuesday afternoon, and I think is how he phrased it. And he has a joke about how I don't look like a guy you'd leave alone with your kids, but I think they're actually like two completely separate jokes.
You're right. Yeah, that's a good point.
So there are jokes like that, where he thinks of himself as a werewolf, like he woke up in the morning and like Coors Light is the silver bullet. But then, I think also on this record is like the Trader Joe's bit, which is like not a thing that he probably would do anymore, but it's so funny.
Oh, it's brilliant. Yeah. And actually, I feel like that would be the kind of thing that would remind me a little more of like, you're making me now just think of Carlin. So now I'm wondering if there are comparisons to be had. And, any bit that's kind of a list bit is either going to make me think of Weird Al or George Carlin. Those are going to be two guys who do lists better than anybody. But yeah, the Trader Joe's bit stands out. I was hoping it was on this album. I couldn't remember. And
that was
thank God
like,
it got here.
It's interesting because it was the thing that I sent to most people. Because I don't know why. One, it's so funny. And he has so much fun telling it. And I think how it functions, now I'm like putting on my like true comedy critic hat. It functions because it happens later in the record. That it works in two ways. One, it's essentially like an observation plus like an absurd kind of blowing up of how a thing works or whatever. And that is like when I send it to people, like, look at this funny thing where this guy's just pretending. But how it functions on the record is, by that point, you already know who Kyle is. Yeah. So then it's just like, oh, this is what this guy does when he's in Trader Joe's. Right? It's essentially a story of Kyle going to Trader Joe's. Here's the story. I went to Trader Joe's and I stood in place and thought these things.
Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah.
And those are essentially how it functions both in the record and how it functions separately. Who knows if he thought about it that way? He probably didn't, because like, why would one?
Right.
Especially at that point when this was his first record. But I think that's why that works. It's like, it's so discreet and you can send it off to people and they're like, I know Trader Joe's. And he's doing voices. He's doing I just remember when he says like, do not dishonor Trader Ming.
Yes.
It was so funny. It's so funny. And then also the insomnia bit.
Yes. Yeah.
Which is also a flight of fancy, right? It's like the story of that, and that comes at the end, which is just like Kyle's awake in bed, and he comes up with this idea. And yeah, I think there is just like a fun rhythm to it, and it's interesting that he doesn't do. I actually think in this last record he put out, or last special he put out, it comes a little bit back in more. It's hard to think because he had a half hour and 3 hours since this.
Mm-hmm.
And as I mentioned, he constantly is throwing away stuff because he hadn't had the time to record it.
Right.
I remember because I've seen him live in between. I'm like, oh, where's those jokes?
Oh
He's
my
like,
god.
oh, I didn't have a special to record. Yeah, and then so this special has a lot of just like tangents.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why actually I think it's best to listen to him in an audio form. Because especially compared to Comedy Central, because Comedy Central has to air 42 minutes of it.
Sure.
And he films an hour and 20 or whatever. An
Yeah.
hour and 10. So they have to cut out this stuff that you cut out, which is like, he has a tangent on the recent record that is cut out where he's just talking about how he feels like he's fortunate, he's optimistic but paranoid or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
That like at any moment he can like end up like it's going well, but then God's gonna realize and he's gonna make him a Benihana chef. And that's just like, and it doesn't say in because it's, and then he just talks about how Benihana chefs are the most stressful job,
Mm-hmm.
and that's already a tangent. But in that, there's another tangent about how, making fun of the idea that chefs are the new rock stars.
Uh-huh.
And it's so funny.
Oh.
He's like, it's so funny. And that just sort of like, it's not really like a takedown or like he's making like a big point. He just like is circulating the absurdity of the idea that it's like a guy with a neck tattoo of a whisk.
First off, I believe there really is a Trader Joe. That's the only way I can get through. I don't like to think like, oh, it's my last $17 I'm spending on weird microwavable Indian food. I like to think there's really a Trader Joe that comes in there like late Sunday nights with a pith helmet and a safari jacket, and he comes in after they're closed with like an entire fishing net full of prepackaged items. And he wants people to believe he travels on some kind of spruce goose type airplane or a large boat. And he just comes in and he just splays the bounty out. You have to call it the bounty at Trader Joe's. He splays it out on the floor and he just, oh, the seas were angry. Oh, we lost a few crewmen in the South Pacific. But the island women, the island women. Branch number 847. Oh, the island women. I feel like that, like he's eccentric, but like people put up with it, employees put up with it because that's why they get benefits,
He's got this potential too, though, where he says some. I think you're right. He's not making a point or going out of his way to make a point, but he says some big shit in this such an unassuming way. I feel like he could get away with more if he wanted. If he became a really political comedian.
Yeah.
I still think he could do it more artfully than a lot of people.
Yeah, I've seen him recently. I actually saw him do a club and it was not right for him. It wasn't bad. It was just like, I so rarely go to clubs,
Mm-hmm.
because I just don't like the energy of it.
Okay, all right.
And I don't like, I'm like very interested in comedy audiences, and I don't like, I know when they're laughing wrong.
Okay, yeah.
And I don't like how it then reinforces bad behavior in comedians.
Sure.
That is like the thing of if I think if I have any role in the comedy world, it is to like try to make it so audiences know to laugh at better places.
Yeah.
Because then better comedy results, blah, blah, blah. But his rhythm was different, right? So because he's doing his thing and, he's not doing short sentences where you're like, the joke's at the end of this sentence because I ended with a hard consonant and it's short.
Yeah.
He like adds adverbs and adjectives and it kind of like meanders through whatever. And so the rhythm was off, but it was very close to after the election.
Mm-hmm.
And he just like, I need to say something, but I don't know what it is. And I actually can't remember I can't remember what he even said, but I think he, like many comedians, it's interesting that what we call the second comedy boom, whatever we defined it as, it's like almost directly correlated with the Obama administration.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so then we have all these comedians who never were political.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's a different style of comedy. And now we're all expecting all these people to like start talking truth to power.
Uh-huh. Well, come on, where's the next David Cross coming from?
And you're like, I don't know. They just like never did that. You know, it'd be
that's
like
a really good point. Yeah.
And I've never been a huge fan of political comedy.
Mm-hmm.
Because I always feel like, though the jokes might be phrase novelly, the joke is always the same, which is like, making the same point everyone's making.
Sure.
Or the opposite, which is like, ooh, I'm making the point people aren't making.
Uh-huh.
Which is like, the grand contrarians of our time. I used to say that like political comedy is either like Salon or Slate. It's either like, racism is bad. Like, I mean, yeah, that's true, but like hard to like really make that interesting comedy. Or like, what if racism was good? And you're like, that's also not interesting.
Right.
So it's hard. I think a lot of these comedians have audiences that are expecting it from them and don't know, really what to do. And I have not seen. I can't think of any comedian who I don't think of as political shift to being more political in a way that felt totally natural and as good as their other stuff.
Sure.
Have you?
Oh my God.
And it's only been 2 months, right? So it's like they haven't had that much time to work on it.
No, and I mean, I feel like the best ones of them are going to, it's just going to be, since they're talking about life, the adaptation has to just be talking about what life is like now. And, it's not going to be political necessarily, but the most political for some of them, for the best of them, will probably be like, this is what life is like now. Isn't that disappointing? Here's also my jokes about it. Like, I don't know that there's going to be like, you don't need Kyle Kinane speaking truth to power. I mean, we've got late night. Colbert's turned the late show into just another Colbert Report.
Yeah, it's weird that they then have another 40 minutes of like regular late night show to do.
Yeah.
Which is like, it's a harsh shift. And I think I'm not as sold on like the new Colbert show still yet, as I think we've all just accepted that they are, and the ratings are good because it's still tonally very weird.
Yeah.
That I'm. I was about to say famously, but I'm not famous. But like I'm a Seth guy. But I think the nature of that show being smaller allows it. I think the hard part with Colbert now is that the show needs to feed Colbert as a performer. And so then like he'll do a political joke, but then has to like do a song about it, or where like Seth ain't doing no song. He's just gonna tell some jokes. And I think that sort of halfway point between like what Seth is doing and what like James Corden is doing is a weird position to currently be in, and they'll probably figure it out. But actually, to be fair, on Kyle's new record, he talks about guns in a way that's not, again, it's not really doing like guns are bad. He has a bit about open carry and how he annoys it because he always thinks that when they say open carry, they mean alcohol, and then when they mean guns. Then he just talked about like, if we're going to have a gun, if we're going to open carry a gun, like you should at least wear the clothes that are appropriate to it. And he just goes, he's like, he saw a guy with a gun and he's wearing board shorts. And he does one of the, it's an easy move, but like to yell off mic. And he just yells like, long pants.
It's a good joke when you can have somebody tell you the joke and it still works. That's solid. That's good fucking.
I know.
It's craft. Again, to come back to him calling it a craft, it 100% is. And I didn't know, pardon me, I didn't know that he'd been, like you said, been doing comedy for 10 years before this damn album came out. I mean, I know he's around my age, so that blows my mind a little bit.
Yeah, it's interesting how it always feels like because this I think boom time had like Aziz who like started and was already a superstar. We assume everyone was that is
Right.
like the new pace. But for most comedians, it's still like what the pace was, which is like takes 10 years to
Sure.
like be a person. You know, like I was like I realize, and it's almost like unbelievable. Like before Tig put out her first album, she'd been doing comedy for 13 years.
Yeah.
Right?
Man,
And that's
crazy.
so long.
Yeah. Feels like it. Feels like it.
But now it's a little bit different because people are, you know, you're seeing a lot of albums pretty early on. Or at minimum, we see. I feel like the new trend is when you have a half hour, you release your album. But he was like, I think 2009 was still like getting an album was not a thing you took for granted. You're like, oh,
Right.
I get an album? I didn't know that's allowed. And it's hard to say like, as a result of the album, you know, he says it's on the special, but in the album, and it is true. He quit his day job like literally 2 weeks before he recorded it.
Yeah.
And so the album is also just like a like, all right, I guess I'm a comedian now.
Yeah.
And there is that energy of he talks to. It is that same thing of like a comedian's like a creative professional. It's not like he's not like I'm in showbiz. It's like
Right.
I'm no different than a certain type of person.
Yeah.
That he speaks to. But also I think it's like he has that voice, the voice of Comedy Central.
Yeah.
And I think some of it is it's a thing that I always wonder of comedians that I like, how much of it is just like, oh, I like their personality and they're like they just have whatever the cadence and the rhythm of a funny person is.
Yeah.
Because he has a lot of that in there.
Definitely.
And I like it. The thing that I always, even looking at it right now, that I find always annoying about his stuff, and I wish I just told him that he should change it because it makes it very hard, is he names the track listings after, like, themes. So they're not what they are.
Okay. Yeah.
These are song titles.
Yeah. The house is rocking.
Dream Police. And so, you know, like, Trader Joe's is, I think, writing on the wall.
Holy shit.
So, like,
I hadn't even noticed that. I was in such a rush to listen to it. That's amazing.
Yeah, so like right now I'm like it's hard to remember the certain thing, and it's each one like his newest one. The tracks are named after the ingredients of I think like a Chicago style sausage or whatever, because like it's called like it'd be like beef, pork, assorted spices, and you're like,
Well, it's as maddening as reading a David Cross list, which is one of my favorite album track of any time of all time. Is one track on one of his albums is entitled "If Baseballs Had AIDS on Them," which has nothing to do with anything he's talking about. He just didn't give a fuck. But I like that. So these are themed though, but still equally is hard to make.
yeah,
out.
well, you literally can't do anything about it. It makes it so it's impossible to remember it. Yeah, it's even looking at him still annoyed. I wish I told him that he should stop doing that. I should have asked him why he does it, and I should ask him to stop. Well, he probably thinks that I don't think of, you know, he probably would be like, but even this one has discrete things. You know, there's like, yeah, I mean, track listings, I guess, is weird because you're like, I didn't think of myself as like doing track listings. But you still gotta like throw a person a bone.
Right. Yeah, I mean this is a great in terms of like an album, since it's not a sketch. He's not a sketch comedian, he's not a musician.
Yeah.
It's a great album experience. It's a full like there's
Yeah.
nothing bad on here. There's not a misstep,
Now I'm
which
trying
is
to think
insane.
if there's anything I think is bad.
The only like they said, the only stuff that seems like might be one or two performance mistakes, and they add to it.
Yeah.
And you know,
stumble on a few words.
and it's somehow perfect. Of this
Yeah.
guy who might have just woken up
Yeah.
and walked in the room.
Trying to think of now. I really want to think of if there's a thing that's weaker. You know, it's harder. I guess I'm trying to think. There's certain things that feel observational.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, there's some jokes that there's the bit about how his family he comes from like a long line of heroes, and like one fought in World War II, and my dad fought in Vietnam, and the closest I got was that I in 6th grade played for a little league team that was sponsored by a funeral home. And people laugh at that joke, even though that doesn't make sense. That's really the setup for, because I know what it's like to wear a uniform that thousands of people died for. And you're like, that feels like math. And he'll probably say the same thing, which is like, though it's clever, like, what is that for?
Right.
Where he has that thing about like, I remember loving, the best ones are the ones you're like, yeah, that sounds like Kyle Kinane, right? It's like his bit about how the Detroit Lions lost every single game and still got to drive home in a Bentley, right? It's like we need in the punchline is like, I'm not saying policemen and firemen aren't heroes, but we should redefine the definition to include people who can do their job, to do their job wrong every day and still drive home in a Bentley. That one's great. Man, I didn't realize I can quote so much of it. What's the other one I really like? He talks about selling cake decorations. You never feel more like a toothless cog in the machine than selling cake decorations over the phone.
I think I got insomnia. Sometimes I don't fall asleep till like 1:45 or something. Sometimes I'm just up, like I'll watch like all of Jimmy Kimmel Live, and I just I think I got insomnia. I really think I got. And so, for those of you that don't know, it's basically what happens is I'll lay down in bed and I'll get to that point, that tipping point of, if sleep, you're laying on the beach. And sleep is the encroaching tide licking at your toes. It's getting closer and closer to take you away into slumber. And right as you feel your body start to float and about to be carried off, insomnia is the booming voice that just says, "Hey Kyle, do you think you could barbecue over a volcano?" Because,
which I think is funny. It's like it's little lines like that might seem misanthropic, but again, it is obviously an incorrect description of the man. But but that's this little dose of realism here and there that I adore, and it's very very literate. I don't know. There's just something like he's a smart dude.
Yeah.
You know that he has no desire to be pretentious about it.
Yeah, and it's the same thing of like that's the contrast I think that always he's walking, which is like a dirtbag who also like there was a thing about he was reading I think on the next record he's like the story starts with him reading Walden and Civil Disobedience and somehow transitions I think into him forgetting that he was masturbating. if I have that story correctly, or that basically like it might be but like those are the things that will happen.
Yeah,
the story will start with something really pretentious. And then he'd be like, it's like, you've hit a new low when you forget that you're masturbating.
That's amazing.
I can really like. But then, so then, right, I think it might have been 2 albums ago, he has these sort of like, he remembers pop-ups of like when things he did that's really bad.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something like he got a blowjob from an underage handicapped person or something.
Oh my God.
Or half a blowjob, and I think he's like shied away from that a little, which is like I'm like it's not even like I'm a man of the people. I'm like below that. I think he's like things are going good,
right?
And I'm not gonna each record things are going better in his career.
Sure.
And I think you like see that.
Right. Do you think he's kept the idea though that it's still a craft and that it's less about how magical everything is for him, or that he like is there still some element of that in his
that
comedy?
He's working on? I mean, like he the way he talks about it, it's like the reason he writes the jokes to be good, like to be interesting, I guess, is like to entertain himself almost. Because he's like, if I have to do it every night and I'm bored with it, I'm not going to be good at selling the joke.
Sure.
So I use these words to entertain myself. It's like I'll throw in words that I'm not totally sure what the meaning of, and if the audience laughs, then I'm like, I guess that's what I have the meaning for.
Holy shit.
And I think it's also he works a lot, right?
Yeah.
I think he came up with a lot of the guys that he came up with have, part of the reason he is prolific is that like stand-up is his number one job. Where the guys that he was associated, like the Chicago School, which is not really what they're called, but if you want to call, a lot of them now have TV opportunities and stuff. And I do think he's reflective of all the Chicago guys. Some of them have that same thing of like coming things to an optimistic point of view instead of a cynical point of view.
Sure.
So it's like him and Pete Holmes and Kumail.
Yep.
And Matt Bronger, T.J. Miller, and Matt Bronger. There's so many of those guys. I said Pete Holmes. I think those are all of them. Oh, Hannibal is also.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And they all kind of knew each other, and they all kind of have similar notes of that, but are such different people, and they all like came to LA at different times. Like Kyle was in LA for a really long time, and that's a really interesting, surprising thing about him. Yeah, like he was doing comedy in Chicago for only 4 years, and then he lived in LA for 6 of the years that he was doing stand up. Where like Pete and Kumail went to New York, and T.J. Miller became like a movie star first. Because he's you see him on screen, you're like, yeah, you should be on screen.
Yeah, right.
It's crazy.
I know.
I was rewatching the second episode of this Crashing Pete Holmes TV show. TJ comes in a scene, and you're like, hey, what's TJ doing? Just like immediately like, and he's like, he wears glasses. And you're like, well, what's that nerd TJ Miller doing?
Okay, so here's what I like to ask people towards the end of the episode.
Sure.
If you're going to tell people why to listen to this album, I mean, it is his first. Let's say somebody doesn't know Kyle Kinane's comedy. What's a good reason to give this thing a listen?
Yeah, I think I've never thought about that. Every year I rank specials, and every year that Kyle has put out a special, he's been in the top 3 of it. He was, I think, number 2 or 3 2 years ago and number 1 last year. But I do wonder if you haven't heard him at all. If you hear like a 30-minute thing about gout, you're like, who is this guy? And why should I be so invested in it?
Yeah.
And also who has 30 minutes?
Right.
And maybe, I don't know, because I've been through this whole ride with him, man. So I don't, maybe anyone, but I think this record represents like what most people want from comedy, which is like, oh, it's like everything's compact and funny, and there's lots of different types of funny. And it's essentially like I'd probably argue that he's probably like the one of 2 or 3 like comedian comics of the time, or like the last 10 years. And that is because of like the specificity of language and the quality of joke writing.
Sure.
And it's just a really, really funny, yet like you leave the record feeling better.
Absolutely.
I think that's how I would put it.
It's like, very true.
Yeah, it's like it's almost cheesy. Like now you listen back how like specific it was about leaving the record feeling better. But like that taking a shit story really is like explicitly about, oh, let me try to do a story that's like optimistic but about having to take a shit in a bad bar. So that combination of like really funny, interestingly worded jokes, clear point of view, but also like it's a feel good record.
It really is.
At a time where and that was different, right? I mean, like, even you mentioned David Cross a few times, or you feel like you listen to David Cross and you might feel worse about something.
Yeah.
And that's fine. That's his point of view, and like to each their own. But like, Kyle represents a shift, and it's hard to say if he pioneered it or not. But I think the fact that like you ask a lot of comedians and they'll be like, Kyle's usually in a lot of people's lists of the people they like to watch or who's the best. I think that is reflects a sort of maybe a shift of like how he's influenced people. But at minimum, like it's really funny.
Yeah.
It really is. Like I haven't listened to it in a while because he has new records that I listen to, but it's still really, you know, I remember it got me then, it got me now. That part where he talks about you don't get good Chicago style deep dish pizza in LA. I remember it was always my favorite jokes, and it still is like, not only do they not have, I can't remember what it was, but it's like not only do they not have relish, but it's a bunch of books or something.
Yeah.
It's a bunch. It's so, it really is. Like I think what people should want from a comedy record.
Absolutely. I mean, I can tell you after almost 2 months straight of listening to a comedy album a day,
Yeah.
this is like, there are a ton of clunkers in there. And this one, for being an album that's only 8 damn years old, it's kind of upsetting that it's as good as it is.
Yeah, and this is not his best material. I mean, like, again, I think it's hard to, I think his most recent album, again, everything should listen. The last two were freaking fantastic. But because these are more discreet, it feels more like, oh, you can say this one. And which happens a lot. People's first record, like you can like, I can name certain bits from Hannibal's first record because everything is like, oh, pigeons and pickle juice and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
But he's a better comedian now, which is harder to point out because everything is a little bit longer. It's also like I think, you know, partly because I praise him constantly, and I'm part of the people who like write about comedy of a time. I think, you know, it will be remembered as like a seminal record of whatever this time in comedy is.
That's perfect. That's absolutely perfect. Yeah, please, everybody, listen to it. Like I said, it is available on vinyl, which, you know, that's right, nerds. I'm sticking to the vinyl thing for as long as I possibly can. There's a while, you know, a couple of years back, early on, I was like, I would give people exceptions because I was struggling for guests. I was like, come on, just come on the show. We'll talk about whatever the fuck. But it's nice that like a newer thing I can actually get on vinyl, and it is really gorgeous. Like I can, you know.
Yeah, I think most of his records he puts out on vinyl just because he is hipster Larry the Cable Guy.
Yeah,
and I
of
feel
course.
like that's part of the aesthetic.
Where can people find you? What do you have to promote? Let me look and see when this is coming out. But where can people find
things
you?
I have to promote are the things I'm going to have to promote. Twitter at Jesse David Fox, and the main thing, which is I think people who listen to this podcast will enjoy a lot. I have a podcast of my own. It's called Good One: a podcast about jokes. It's a podcast about jokes. Every week a comedian picks one of their jokes, and we just talk about the joke for like 45 minutes.
It's insane.
And you're like, how can someone talk about a joke for 45 minutes? And yet every time we do it, it's like, actually, I'm surprised. I was nervous when I picked the premise.
Yeah.
Kyle Kinane is a guest. I don't know when that one will come out, but he picked a joke from Death of the Party. And that one is the funniest episode. The podcast isn't always funny. It's like often very serious.
Sure. Yeah.
You know, it's really deep divey, and but that one is really funny because he just like remembers that time, and he's really good at it. But Weird Al talks about word crimes. Kristen Schaal talks about a bit from her first half hour.
Awesome.
And that was really great. Jen Kirkman is really good. She talks about the closer of her most recent special, which is one of the great jokes. Now I feel like I should just be plugging Jen Kirkman's special. But the closer is incredible, and the amount of thought she put into it is why I started this podcast. Is to be like, look, this is how much thought went into 8 minutes of this thing.
Yeah.
Tig Notaro talks about Taylor Dane.
Awesome.
What I would probably say is the joke that helped her then transition into then the comedian who I think is the best comedian working. It's hard to say comedian alive because it's like comedians who were better or like who were like the all-time greats are still alive, but maybe. But and I think those are so it's good if you like jokes and want to know how it works. It's a podcast for you. It's called Good One, a podcast about jokes. Comes out every Monday at Good One Podcast. Also, vulture.com is where I write stuff like this.
Awesome. That's perfect. You guys should check out the Comedy Album a Day thing that I'm doing on YouTube. There are little previews on Instagram. Go to youtube.com/comedyonvinyl. Still go see my damn movie. My Lords of Soaptown. Go to bit.ly/Soaptown DVD. Came out in December. You can get the DVD. We'll be streaming shortly somewhere. I'll let you guys know when. And that's about it. Well, thank you guys for listening. Thank you so much for doing the podcast. It was a lot of fun.
Thank you for having me. I've been wanting to do it for a while. I just haven't been in Los Angeles.
I know. It's impossible. This is what happens. Most of the time it's by Skype, and I would prefer to do it in person.
Oh, no, I don't want to do a phone podcast.
Those are not fun.
No.
I do them a lot, but they're not fun. And as always, have a good thing. Comedy on Vinyl is a production of Stolen Dress Entertainment. It is produced by Mike Warden and is hosted and edited by Jason Klamm. Our theme song was composed and performed by Richard Levinson. Please visit stolendress.com to listen to our other podcasts, read our blogs, read our tweets, watch our videos, and read our books. Please subscribe on iTunes, and if you like us, give us a 5-star rating and a nice review. You can find us on facebook.com/comedyonvinyl, Twitter @comedyonvinyl, and find everything else at comedyonvinyl.com. A major portion of Comedy on Vinyl has been underwritten by Stand Up Records. Please visit standuprecords.com for all your comedy needs and tune into the new Stand Up channel available on the Roku, where you can also find select episodes of this podcast.